Good evening, everyone. Fall is such a beautiful time of year, and even though it gets dark a little bit earlier, I like to make the most of it by getting really cozy and using it as an excuse to have some really cozy evenings. I began my night by preparing some dinner. Today it was going to be a sweet potato, quinoa, and black bean, like nourish bowl type of situation. So I began by peeling my sweet potato. Then I cubed up the sweet potato, so I just cut it into little cubes. And at this point, the oven had been preheating to 425 degrees. I sprayed these with a little bit of oil and I put some spice mix onto it. In the recipe, they tell you exactly the measurements, but I only have these pre-made mixes, so that's what I used. And I just popped that in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, I prepared some quinoa by just measuring it out into a pan or a pot, whatever you'd call one of those, with some water, and just simmering it until all the water evaporates. Don't forget to salt it. Black beans are the third main ingredient for this recipe, so I just dumped those out and drained them. And for these, I just heated them up on a skillet with some of the same taco seasoning mix. Now to assemble the bowls, you just want to put a little bit of quinoa or a lot, it doesn't matter, it's up to you. So you just want to put the quinoa on the bottom as a base and then just pile on the sweet potato and the black beans. You probably have more than one. I just topped it off with this homemade vegan cashew sour cream. I've been loving making this, so I'll make like a batch for the week and I'll put this on, a lot of the different things I eat. It turned out so yummy. I love eating plant-based meals because I just feel so much better and I have more energy, and this was a delicious one. Now it's time to tidy up in the kitchen. I love drinking tea in the evening to wind down. Especially now that it's chilly outside, it helps to warm me up. And I love jasmine green tea, that's one of my favorites. So that's just what I was having this evening. And don't worry, you guys, it wasn't too late for caffeine. At least not for me. I do really enjoy having this living room in my dorm. Or in our apartment, dorm, whatever you call it. Kid movies, I guess, just make me feel so happy and wholesome. They're always such feel-good movies and shows. Let me know in the comments down below if you do this too, if you watch old children's shows from your childhood. After this, I decided to bake a little bit because, well, what's fall without a good dessert, especially a good pumpkin dessert? Yeah, so I decided to make use of all the ingredients that I had in the oven and bake some pumpkin bread. This recipe is vegan as well. So I started out by preparing a flax egg. So that's just some flax seed meal, some ground flax seeds, and water. I don't remember the exact measurements, but I can link the recipe that I followed in the description. It's not my own recipe. I followed someone else's. The oven is preheating, and now it's time to combine all the wet ingredients. So I think that was coconut oil. And then, of course, some pumpkin puree. I used canned. Some sugar, which was very lumpy, which is why you see me like trying to break up the chunks. Yeah, I don't know why it was like this. And of course, the flax egg. Now it's time to mix it all up. The really nice thing about this recipe was that it was a one bowl recipe, which is a good thing because I only have one mixing bowl. So I was just adding the dry ingredients straight into the wet ones. So this is some flour. So mixing this was a little bit tricky because my bowl was overflowing, but this is the biggest bowl. And like I said, the only mixing bowl I had. So I just had to be very careful here. Oh, it appears I decided to go with the spatula instead. A little bit of baking powder, baking soda, quite a lot of cinnamon for some flavor. I think the recipe also called for like nutmeg or maybe cloves or something along those lines. Maybe it was allspice, but I didn't have any of that, so I just went with some cinnamon and a little bit of salt, and back to mixing. So I sprayed and lined a little bread pan. I was really scared that it would stick because I've had some bad experiences. So yeah, the parchment paper is so helpful, by the way. So if you guys don't do that yet, yeah, put parchment paper on the bottom of all of your baking creations. So this recipe originally was for a sheet. Instead, I just used the same recipe but put it in a bread pan, and I ended up having to cook it for a little bit longer. For the icing, I didn't have any powdered sugar, so I just made my own, because you can do that by just blending up some sugar in a blender. So usually this is something that people do with a stand mixer or a hand mixer. So doing it by hand was really hard, just mixing it all together, because you know icing is supposed to be like super fluffy. It still turned out good though. So I think this ended up baking for like 30 to 40 minutes, kind of a while, but it was not dry, it was not underbaked nor overbaked, and it ended up being perfect. So this is why I so highly encourage to put parchment paper on the bottom of your bakes. It just popped straight out, and it honestly scared me how fast it did. I actually ended up only making half of the recipe for the icing, and I actually only ended up using about half of what I made. So if you don't like having too much icing, I definitely recommend making less than what the recipe suggests. This was so good. You couldn't see me freaking out because my face wasn't in the frame, but when I had my first bite, I was amazed how good it was. And completely vegan, pretty easy. Yeah, I was really happy with this. I highly recommend it. At this point, it was very dark outside. It was definitely nighttime. So I started wrapping up and getting ready for bed. So whenever I want to feel extra cozy, I always like to turn on the fairy lights in my room and then turn off the main light. Whenever I get ready for sleep, I always brush my teeth, I take off my makeup, and I'll do some skincare if I have the energy and if I remember to. I'm actually in need of some skincare suggestions, or some skincare, makeup, hair products, whatever you want. Please let me know in the comments if you recommend anything. I think I mentioned this in my last day in my life video, but I really like to watch Disney Channel because it is just so relaxing and calming to me. So I just watched a little bit of that, and then I went to sleep. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button to see more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night.